We need to talk about Yami. No, not this Yami. He's from a completely different series. No, not this one either, though she's much, much closer to the one I'm actually referring to. No, not that. That's not even a person. I'm talking about this one, Yami Tsukihiro, captain of the notorious Black Bulls and certified ladies man of the Clover Kingdom, second only to Asta. Because despite being on death's door the last time we saw him just about a year ago, he has just become one of the most powerful characters in the entire series. Again, this is honestly starting to become kind of a trend for Yami. One moment he's on the ground seconds away from death, the next he's back on his feet going toe-to-toe with a bad guy that almost everyone else struggled to even land a hit on. And this time, he's even got a cool new transformation to go along with his badass performance. But the question is, how did he get this strong and where did this transformation come from? Well, let's dive right into it and figure out what exactly this means for our favorite Magic Knight captain. First off, I want to say that it completely caught me off guard that we got this fight this early on. I mean, there was obviously the possibility that this battle would very well be the focus of this new batch of chapters. We dedicated 2 chapters to Noelle's fight against Aesir, using them as a way to reconcile the Scylla siblings, mostly Nebra and Solid, with Noelle, giving closure to her family storyline, while also showcasing the potential of her new partnership with Leviathan, which I dare say has also easily put her back on the list of the most powerful characters in the manga, and she hasn't even fully mastered her new transformation yet, which means her ceiling is much higher than we might think. In fact, she might potentially end up being the strongest character in the manga in the very near future, but that's a conversation for a different video. Now, even though Tabata is trying to move things along at a much faster pace, he knew that us fans had much higher expectations from him on Noelle's battle against Aesir than simply seeing an epic fight, so he did his best to give it the time it needed to properly flesh out and resolve. Now, in a brighter timeline, we would have gotten a couple more chapters to really flesh out and dig deeper into the personal conflict between the Scylla siblings, maybe even touch in a bit on their ever-missing father, who a portion of the fandom still thinks might have some heavy importance on the plot for some strange reason. Though, on the flip side, in a much darker timeline, we would have relegated this fight to a single chapter or even skipped it altogether. So while yes, I would have liked it to be longer, I am happy with what we ended up with, especially since their family struggles have been a main component of Noelle's storyline throughout the entirety of the manga, so there really wasn't much more to add to it. But it's a completely different story with Yami, Ichika, Morgan, and Nacht. Aside from Yami, these characters are relatively new to the series, and there hasn't been much development in solving their family issues. Actually, there hasn't been any development. Up until now, Morgan's been dead, so there was no reconciling that guilt Nacht's been carrying with him for however many years now. And Ichika has not only not seen her older brother for over 13 years, but up until a couple of days prior, thought he was responsible for murdering their entire clan, including their father. So yeah, she's had like no time to really process this info, let alone move towards rebuilding that bond. There's a lot more work that had to go into the storyline between these two families, and when it comes to the Yami siblings, personally, I think Tabata hit the mark with them in this chapter, mostly because he let Ichika be the one to do most of the talking in their scene, letting her really just open the floodgates on how guilty she felt for shifting the blame onto him for what happened back when they were children, despite the fault lying solely on her, at least in her head. Yami, on the other hand, seemingly never blamed her for what happened. He knew full well that their father forced her to take the Demon Soul Pill, which made her go on a rampage, causing the massacre that followed, and that she at no point had any control over what happened, and as such, held none of the blame. In fact, if anything, this entire time, Yami likely blamed himself for everything. He knew exactly what kind of man his father was, and that it was his job to protect Ichika from him, and to Yami, letting their father feed her that pill was him failing at that job. And as we find out from Ichika in this chapter, is likely the reason why he finally chose to take out their father and take on the blame of the Yami clan massacre onto himself to protect her from the truth of what happened, even if he couldn't protect her from the event. Which, by the way, want to point out, their father also took one of the pills, making him, like Ichika, go insane, while also greatly boosting his physical and magical abilities. And yet, a 13-year-old Yami was able to take him down without having to take one himself. It goes to show that either Yami always had the potential to be incredibly strong, or his dad was just extremely weak. Personally, I choose to believe the latter, if for no other reason than because, well, fuck that man. Now, in this moment, both Ichika and her brother know that he's dying, and that neither of them have the healing abilities to save him. To Yami, he's just happy that he got to see his little sister again, even if it's in his final moments, but to her, she was not ready to let him go after just reuniting with him. But lucky for her, Ryu had given her exactly what she needed to save him. You see, through his Sengetsu, Ryu was able to figure out the true nature of the Demon Soul Pills. Turns out, they don't actually boost your impulse to kill like Yami's father thought. Instead, it causes your Yoryoku and physical strength to go berserk, giving the user an insane boost in power, which, if you're not strong enough both mentally and physically to handle, causes you to go on a rampage. That's what happened with Ichika. She was too young and too weak to handle the pill at the time. In fact, no one in her clan had ever been strong enough to handle one, but after everything Yami's gone through since coming to the Clover Kingdom, Ryu knows that he can. And once he takes the pill, the mana in his body begins to explode, boosting his natural healing to the point where he completely recovers from the wounds that just a moment ago were fatal. Now, during all of this, Nacht had taken it upon himself to hold off both the Lucius clone and Morgan to give Ichika the time to try and save Yami, but eventually Lucius managed to break through Nacht's mana zone and head straight for the two Yami siblings. Ichika did manage to dodge his first hit, moving both her and Yami out of the way from being one-shotted, but isn't able to dodge his follow-up attack. But just as she's about to be hit, Yami, wanting to make up for not being able to protect her when they were children, pulls her in close and throws a single slash of his katana at Lucius, completely cutting the clone in half. And this is when we get the amazing reveal of Yami's brand new Devil Hybrid transformation, which as of this time does not have an official name, so until Tabata gives us one, I am going to be deeming this transformation the Black Bull. Now, the reason why the pill gave Yami this new look along with his major increase in power is due to the events of the Spade arc. Because his dark magic has a natural connection to the underworld, his time connected to the ritual used to open the devil gates affected his body, giving him properties similar to someone who had formed a contract with a devil in the same way the Dark Triad had, where their bodies themselves were the medium for the contract, making Yami a pseudo-devil possessed, just with no actual devil involved. And the amazing thing about this transformation itself is that it's not reliant on the pills. Had Yami continued to get stronger naturally through training and effort, he likely would have unlocked his transformation himself over time. The pill just sort of rushed the process along. But now that this man has unlocked his new power, he has once again skyrocketed his way up the leaderboard of power scaling in the Black Clover universe, moving his way all the way up to damn near the top of the list. And this is not just me being biased for Yami because he's one of my top 3 favorite characters in the series. He genuinely deserves to be in the conversation for at the very least the top 3 in terms of strength. Because I'd be hard-pressed to find anyone to place above him who I think could take out Lucius as easily as he did. And while yes, we don't know exactly how these clones scale compared to the real deal, it doesn't change the fact that so far, no one's been able to pull off this kind of feat against them. Even Yuno, who Lucius saw as the one person who could possibly end up defeating him. Honestly, at this point, I'd feel much better about our odds of defeating the fake Wizard King if Yami was heading into the battle with Asta instead of a beaten up and tired Yuno, but hey, who's to say that Yami won't join him later on? I mean, it's not like it's the first time Yami would play a major role in taking down the main antagonist of an arc when Yuno and Asta were meant to be their main opponent. But before he can help them out, he has to take care of his real opponent, the now Palatinized Morgan, who, despite being an underling, Lucius claims has surpassed even him. And even though I say Yami definitely matches him strength-wise, Morgan's combination of light and dark magic does have the Black Bull's captain backed into a corner, but lucky for him, he's not the one that actually has to take down this paladin. No, he's just setting the stage for Nacht to take his role as the true star of this battle, and we'll see exactly how that plays out in the next video.